Welcome back to the National Hurricane Center. This is Ken Graham in our operations area. We got a whole crew here. We got Richard, we got Jack, got Robbie, got Dave here. Everybody keeping an eye on our two different areas that we're looking at, and we're going to go over those right now, starting with the big picture with the satellite view. One of them is, well, our depression. It's Fred, and there's not much associated with the center. The aircraft going out there, the hurricane hunters, not really finding an enclosed center. However, even so, you still have all this moisture that still streams northward and bringing some showers and thunderstorms all around the Florida peninsula. So I have to watch out for some of that heavy rainfall. Not all of it coming down at one time, but it accumulates with time and the soil becomes saturated. So we'll have to watch that with time. And torrential rainfall over Cuba associated with this tropical depression. So still getting some impacts in some of these areas, even though not finding that clear-cut center with it. And we're also looking at Grace, well back here, where we're seeing some development and slowly but surely bringing impacts to more of the islands and continuing to move towards the west. So those are the two areas that we're really keeping an eye on. And I think it's interesting to look at this forecast here because there's a few things that we need to consider associated with it. And really, without a center, really tough to get a true track of where these systems are going to go associated with not having a center. The weaker they are, the more they get caught up in the overall flow of the atmosphere, and this forecast could even shift a little further to the west. So we're going to have to watch that. So the real takeaway here is anybody along the Gulf Coast here needs to really pay attention to the system, because whether it develops or not, that's a lot of moisture. And there's so many areas from Florida back over to Louisiana, some places reporting they've already seen their yearly rainfall totals already here in August. So any additional moisture just doesn't help that situation. So we'll have to watch associated with this, pay attention through the weekend and next week, see where this thing's going to go. But currently looking at winds still about 35 miles an hour, moving still right along the Cuban coast with time. The longer it takes to develop, the further west this is going to go. So we're going to have to watch that with time. Now, our next system, we start looking at Grace. Right now, 40-mile-an-hour winds, moving west at 22 miles an hour, so moving fairly quickly and becoming further and further as a tropical storm getting closer to the islands. I mean, you start looking at impacts, even for Puerto Rico, starting to see some of these impacts into Sunday, tomorrow afternoon, and then with time getting into Dominican Republic and Haiti by Monday into Tuesday morning, and just lots of rainfall. So much rainfall, wind. And if you think about it with the mountains, the higher you up in the elevation, it's a bad situation. So you get some of those winds even increasing when you go up in some of these mountains. So pay attention if you're watching from anywhere in these areas. You really got to watch out for some of the impacts associated with it. Now with time, what happens with time? You start looking at the extended forecast. Could be some impacts. Looking at Florida by the time we get into early Thursday morning. So middle of next week, late next week could see some of these impacts. Again, lots of uncertainty associated with it. Just like Fred, you start interacting with elevation, interacting with mountains. That creates a situation that you get fluctuations in intensity, and you can see a situation that really some uncertainty associated with that forecast. Let's look at some of those impacts. And I think right now the biggest thing to talk about is just tropical moisture. This is with Fred, looking at Florida, South Florida areas getting 2 to 4 inches of rain. That's Miami metropolitan area up through Orlando, even seeing some of these showers and thunderstorms, tropical showers, but some of the higher amounts closer to the center and extreme southwest portions of Florida. And then with time, remember, it's so important to really think about this. Any one of these areas that we're pointing to, that's the heavy rain. But if this track shifts a little to the west, so does that rain. So remember, there's uncertainty in the forecast, which means there's uncertainty in some of these impacts that could shift with time. So watch out for that. So we'll see where this heavy rain is going to go. And looking at the actual rainfall associated with Grace, here's the latest forecast for some of that rain. Places like St. Martin, back towards St. Kitts, St. Croix, some of these areas could get torrential rainfall, 4 to 6 inches of rain, some places 3 to 4 inches of rain. So if you're watching from the islands there, also towards Puerto Rico, portions of southeast Puerto Rico, the eastern part of the island could see 4 to 6 inches of rain. So just some heavy rainfall associated with Grace. Have to watch out for some of the flash flooding, especially in areas where you have some of that elevation. So that's the latest information we have. Looking at Fred with time, and also looking out for Grace. The big takeaway here, plenty of moisture. Keep tuned to the latest information. A lot of uncertainty with both of these forecasts, so we'll have to watch out for time and see where that tropical moisture is going to go. So that's the latest information that we have from right here in Miami, Florida at the National Hurricane Center. This has been Ken Graham right here. in the operations area, National Hurricane Center.